Shed Science. How do, Force fans? Another Shed Science for you. So I've just been doing one a week of these just to try and keep a bit of a gap between, not overload you with a bunch of videos. So we're back on now to a regular Tuesday, and I'm coming back round to something I've seen quite a lot of at the moment. Now, I'm probably seeing it quite a lot because the people I follow on social media are all coaches or are in the field of training. So, and the time of year we're at now lends itself quite well to what we're talking about today, which, as you've seen from the title, is off-season guidelines. Okay, now I'm going to use team sport as an example, but the overall theme and the guidelines I give you can be very well can be passed on and transferred across to pretty much any sport really during your sport's off season. Okay, and when we get into those guidelines and when we get into shaping those guidelines, you'll understand why they can be transferred. But I'm using team sport because it's my background, what I've played, it's my background, what I've coached, and it's currently the background I'm coaching in now. So the guidelines, the examples I'll use will fall out of my head very easily, but I'll also try and give you some other guidelines on how you can use them in different sports. And I've had a gap from the extra science, so I'll give you an extra science on the weekend that gives you a few more just hints and tips. So today will be a little bit information heavy, and then extra science will just be, I haven't quite decided yet, it might be some infographics, it might just be some pictures, it might just be some guidelines, or it might be me chatting nonsense as per usual. Okay, but basically we're going to break it down today into what the aim of your off-season period is going to be, and what you should be trying to accomplish during your off-season, or what you should be aiming to cover and the ground you should be aiming to cover with your training during that period where it's not pre-season yet, but you haven't got any games and you're not in season. So you've finished your previous season, there's a bit of a lull, a bit of a gap, and then you've got your pre-season, you've got your period where your majority of your fitness training, or you're back with your club or back with your coaches. That would be deemed pre-season. This bit is the gap in the middle. Okay, so starting with my guidelines for off-season training. Well, your off-season is typically, as I said, the time between the last training or game event in the season. So you finish your season, it's the time between there and when you start pre-season. Okay, so typically there's no real team or club or field training. It's just you doing your own thing, whether that's guided by coaches or completely made up by yourself is irrelevant. But it's the time period between finishing the last season and starting preparation for the next season. Now, what am I suggesting that you do during that, in that off period, that off season? Well, put it this way, I'm suggesting that instead of preparing for your next season and preparing for competition, you bolster and improve and develop your foundations. Okay, now I'm going to come back to the triangle thing. Right now, I'm a massive fan of this, and those of you who've been watching this, and I know the boys are probably sick of me in talking in terms of triangles. However, stay with me. When it comes to sporting performance, the top of the triangle is how well you perform and what you're actually displaying on the field. That is your top goal, and that is what you're aiming for in season. Okay, now your top goal calls upon the lower levels of that triangle, of that setup, and it utilizes different elements of it. I've talked about this in the program in the previous episodes. But at the bottom are the foundations. Okay, now at the bottom are your physical qualities that underpin everything else that you do. Okay, your strength, your movement, your mobility, your base fitness, all these things that everything else utilizes in certain mixtures to allow you to be a good sprinter and then allow you to be fast on field, if that makes sense. Okay, so this bottom layer is your foundations, and they are very basic physical qualities that allow you to perform well at other physical tasks. Now, during your off season is the perfect time to thicken this base so that you have a stronger, solid base to grow a taller peak of the triangle. Okay, now that represents, a taller peak represents better performance at your given sport, at your given position, at your given task that you're required to do during sport and performance. So during your off season, see it as a general, I can never say this word, a general preparation phase, right? You're just performing general physical improvements to improve that foundation and thicken that triangle's base to give you more to call on when it comes to preparing for your season, and specifically preparing for your season. So your off-season period is a period of very general preparation, okay? You've got one eye on performance, but it's in the distance. At the moment, you're just trying to be a better athlete, a more well-rounded, better athlete. In other words, you're trying to get fitter, stronger, more mobile, not necessarily faster yet, but if improved speed to a large degree is your end goal, not a bad idea to work on some speed work, but it wouldn't come in terms of trying to be faster now. It would be laying down the foundations to be faster later in the line. I'm a little bit obsessed with speed in sport, aren't I? Maybe I should dig into that a bit more. Keep your eyes peeled. Okay, so why is this phase important? Well, as I've said, it gives you a thicker, stronger, more stable foundation, and it makes you a better athlete so that you can apply that better athletic ability to more specific improvements later on down the line. If you think of it this way, if you're making a supercar, they don't take a normal car and stick some bits to it to make it faster. They start from scratch very often, unless you're Porsche and they just make the same car over and over again better. Not a good example. Look at something like Lamborghini. So every now and again, Lamborghini will just scrap the old platform and will put a new base platform down and start from scratch and make the best car physically possible from all angles, and then make that car the best supercar they can make, okay? So they start with a really strong, stable platform that has every element of it is capable of being a better supercar once they finish tweaking it. Okay, they take it back to the drawing board, they put in a better engine, a better suspension, better chassis, better body, lighter frames, better suspension, better wheels, the works. But they go back to the drawing board every now and again to make a better supercar in the end process. That's essentially what we're doing. We're going back to the drawing board, we're reassessing where we're subpar in some of our physicality, some of our general athletic abilities, and we're trying to improve ourselves as a general athlete. So we're not necessarily going, right, my sport is football, I'm going to be a better footballer by doing X, Y, and Z. In the general off-season, the preparation phase, you're trying to be a better athlete, a more well-rounded athlete who's more robust, who's generically fitter, generically stronger, generically more powerful, so that you can call on those qualities and apply them more specifically to sport-specific training later on down the line, okay? By doing this, you allow yourself to be more fit, more robust, fitter, stronger, and it gives you that thicker, more stable platform to perform better later on down the line. If you jump ahead of yourself and start trying to be a better rugby player, a better football player, a better netballer, a better sprinter, too early on during the season, you may miss out some of the resilience building, some of the fitness, some of the general quality improving training modalities that will allow you to actually perform better for longer, for instance, in your season. It's almost like you put down a dodgy foundation for a house. At some point, that's going to rear its head and the house is going to tip or cracks are going to show. So you always need a strong foundation to improve, to perform better later on down the line. All right. Yeah, see it this way. Your general preparation phase, your off season, gives you an overall platform. It might have some rough edges, but overall you're a better athlete. And then when you hit that specific phase, that pre-season phase and that in-season phase, You're spending your time smoothing off those rough edges and transferring your new capacities, your new abilities to your sport. Okay, so how do we program? How do we decide what we're going to do in our off season? How do we pick what important capacities, capabilities we're looking? What do we actually do, and how do we pick them? Well, we go back to my favorite, the triangle approach. Okay, you start at the top as always, because the things that you want to be better at the top, your sporting performance, your sprint speed, your tackle abilities, your agility, your change of direction, all this, they're very obvious because they're things that you see, things that you do, things that you lack sometimes on field, on track, out in cross country, and they're things that are not typically very obvious that you're poor at. Okay, so you label these, you write a list of these down, and you say, right, this year, I'm going to hit more tackles. This year, I'm going to be first to the ball. This year, I'm going to be better in the air. This year, my passing is going to be better. You write down the list of things you want to be better at. Then you work out what your body needs to do to be better at those things. Does it need to be more powerful? Does it need to be faster? Does it need to be fitter? Does it need to recover more effectively between bouts? Okay, so you need to figure out what your body needs to look like and perform like an output to be able to do these top goals. From there, then, you figure out, or with the help of coaches, you figure out what the basic capacities are, what your muscles have to do, and what your energy systems have to do, and what your foundations are to be able to get your body to perform these tasks. Okay? So, for instance, if you want to why can't I think of anything? If you want to be first to the ball, okay? You in football, you want to be able to break away from a play that's gone, a defensive play, and be first on a break to an attacking play. You essentially need bring it down. You need to be faster, okay? Your sprint speed needs to be higher than anybody else's. And very often you need to be able to recover quickly from one play to sprint maximally to the next play. Okay, a couple of things in there. You need to be able to sprint better and recover better between plays. Okay, so your top goal is to be first to the ball. Your medium and middle goal, your capability goal, is to get to the ball first and recover between bouts. The capacities that depend on that are your aerobic fitness, your strength and power, to produce your sprint speed, and then some level of anaerobic fitness to allow you to output a high level of ability for an extended period of time. So during your specific phases, you would use exercises and drills that would mimic football play and mimic the type of actions you would be doing. But during your general off-season phase, you would instead just improve these capacities on the whole. You would improve your general strength, you would improve your general fitness, you would improve your general anaerobic abilities and your ability to output high intensities and high workloads for extended periods of time. And you would improve, I can't remember what I said, your power capacities on the general whole, in general. Okay? Once you've done that then, and you've got through your general phase, you can become more specific during pre-season. Okay, now I hope that all makes sense. I've waffled on a little bit, but on the outset of things, this is quite a simple topic. You're trying to be very general, but the intricacies come in how you separate general training from specific training. Okay, so I'll dig more into this on Sunday in the extra science video, and we'll get a better idea of how you delineate between general and specific training. All right, any questions? You know where I am. Shed Science.